In this problem, we're given that sine alpha is negative, tangent alpha is positive. We want to find the exact value of the difference of alpha and 4 pi over 3. I'm going to work this problem coming right up. The very first thing I want to do is to determine which quadrant alpha is in. So I know that the sine of alpha is negative and the tangent of alpha is positive. You'll remember that mnemonic, a smart trig class, to help me remember. So all the trig functions are positive here, only the sine and its reciprocal here, etc. So I know that the sine is negative in Q3 and also in Q4. And the tangent, well, that's going to be positive in Q1 and in Q3. The only place that intersects is Q3, so I know that alpha is in Q3. Next, I want to use this fact that sine alpha equals minus 5/13 and draw a triangle and determine all the lengths of all the sides. Determine that alpha is in Q3. So here's alpha, and I know that I'm given in the problem that sine alpha is minus 5 over 13. So the minus 5 must be this y value here. The positive 13 has to be here. And I can use Pythagoras to determine that x equals, and that's going to have to be negative because I'm in Q3. So I know that cosine alpha is equal to negative 12/13. Now I know that I need to use the subtraction formula, which I have written in red here. So the next thing I'm going to need to do is determine the sine and the cosine for 4 pi over 3. 4 pi over 3 is also in Q3, and the reference angle for 4 pi over 3, well, that's going to be pi over 3, isn't it? So I know that the sine of 4 pi over 3, and sine of course is negative in Q3, so that's going to be equal to minus the sine of pi over 3, and I've got my memorized triangle there so I can determine that, and that's going to be minus the square root of 3 over 2. And for the cosine of 4 pi over 3, exactly the same process. That in Q3 will be minus cosine pi over 3, the reference angle, and that will be equal to minus the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So on my memorized triangle here, minus negative or minus 1/2. The final task then is to apply the formula. So I know that sine alpha minus 4 pi over 3, well, that's just going to equal the sine of alpha multiplied by the cosine of 4 pi over 3 minus the cosine of alpha times the sine of 4 pi over 3. And I've calculated everything now, so that's minus 5 over 13, which is the sine of alpha, multiplied by the cosine of 4 pi over 3, so that's minus 1/2, minus, I'm getting a lot of negatives here, cosine, so that's minus 12/13 for the cosine of alpha, multiplied by minus the square root of 3 over 2 for the sine of pi over 3. So that's going to become 5 over 26. 3 negatives together are going to give me 1 negative, so that's minus 12 times 3 over 26. And I can just factor out 1/26, and that's 5 minus 12 times the square root of 3, and that completes my problem. I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel and leave a comment in the comment space Let me know if this makes sense to you or if there's any videos you'd like to see me make. That would be great. And have a great day. Thanks for watching.